Hey, we read bookers. I finished my Goodreads challenge of reading 50 books this year. I finished it in August, so that's a thing. And my other goal this year was to read 15 Shakespeare plays. I have read Shakespeare sonnets when I was doing my creative writing major, so that's a thing I've already done, but I've never read any Shakespeare plays except Romeo and Juliet in high school. So I felt like I was really behind and I wasn't a true English literature major until I did that. So I did that this year, and now I'm going to tell you my rankings of them from 15 to 1, 15 being my least favorite and 1 being my favorite. 15, The Tempest. Now I don't know if it's because this is the last one I read and I was just kind of over it at this point, but I did not enjoy this one at all. I thought the premise was just really silly, and not silly and fun like in A Midsummer Night's Dream. It was just silly and like didn't really catch my attention at all. I felt that the prose lacked what all the other ones had. And I found all of these in order that he had written, that they assume he wrote them in. And The Tempest was like the last one on the list of ish. It was close to the end. So I don't know if like there's something like scholarly going on there that a scholar could say about Shakespeare. Towards the end his plays got more terrible. I don't know. I was not a fan of The Tempest though. It was my least favorite one that I read. Next, Henry V. Henry was cool, but there was just so much nothing in between like the small exciting things that happened that I was just not interested, and the writing was just okay in my opinion. The historic books that he's written didn't interest me as much as I thought they would. Like I thought I would enjoy them a lot more, but I don't know a whole lot about European history. Public school here in America is really terrible, and unless you're taught in a post-grad or a grad world, there's just no way you're gonna get any history other than American shoved at you. And I feel like if I knew the backstories more, I might appreciate what was happening. But Henry V was just, I just was like, when is this over? 13, and I might get a lot of flack for this one, but Macbeth. I really liked the witches. I liked the idea of this prophecy. I liked Lady Macbeth a lot, but I couldn't, it was like, why make these terrible decisions based on these witches that just keep telling you things are gonna happen? You could just not do them. You could just not kill your best friend to become king. You know, I mean, written obviously very well. It's Shakespeare. After Macbeth, actually, I thought that they were all written very well. So there's not, I think after Macbeth, I would say on this list, I would say that it's just what I enjoyed the most, is what I'm ranking them as, not as like how well written they were, because Macbeth was written very well, really great lines, but just kind of bored at that point of like all the treachery. 12, Othello. Or Othello, if you're not being pretentious. I first heard about Othello from a sassy gay friend, actually. he was like, Othello found your handkerchief at Cassio's, and she's like, oh, I can see how he'd think that. And he's like, so we wait here for him to murder us? Like, Othello was so irrational, he drove me insane. Like, just there's a lot of that going on in these plays, of like people not trusting other people or believing what somebody else says over the person that they love and trust the most in the world. Like Othello was like in love with her, and he was just like, yeah, one person that I don't really trust and that's kind of skeezy told me that you were cheating on me and that you're unfaithful, so I'm gonna kill you. I'm just gonna strangle you, and you're just gonna be okay with it because you're a chick. Just so bad. 11, Romeo and Juliet. I think it's just because it's ranked here, just because it's, you know, everybody's heard of it, you know? If you hear the story and think, oh, it's so romantic, then you've never read it. It's about two dumb kids that really fuck their shit up, and they ruin a whole bunch of events come into place because they are immature and they don't know what real love is, and it's just insane. Like, Romeo is obsessed with this other girl, and then he's like, oh, never mind, I like Juliet, like 20 minutes later, after saying he would rather die than not end up with the first girl, Rosaline. It's insane. The story itself is crazy, but it's a classic, and it's one that I actually enjoy reading. I had a good time rereading it. So yeah, and after I read it, I watched Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio version, because who doesn't love that? I mean, Baz Luhrmann, people, come on. Number 10, Richard III. This was the first one I ever read, actually. So I read this one in January. Now is the winter of our discontent. It's such a great novel about good and evil. The third is like so crazy. Like his plot to kill everybody is so insane, and how he gets away with it and everybody's just like, oh, we don't know. He's so evil. So I like him. I like a good villain, so I really enjoyed Richard III. Number 9, The Taming of the Shrew. I was first introduced to Taming of the Shrew through 10 Things I Hate About You. And then also there was an episode of Degrassi where like Craig and like Ashley did like a play of it, and I was like, whoa, that was intense. At least 14-year-old me thought so. So to actually read it was really cool, finally. I knew the premise loosely based on teen drama, but you know, to actually read the play was really interesting. Katharina is a badass, and I just hate Petruchio so much. He is like the worst. How he locks her in after their wedding day and he's like, behave, wench. Like, oh, it was so frustrating to read. And Bianca, her sister, is like just the worst human being, and they're all so terrible, and Catherine is like, I just don't want to get married and I don't like men, and it was just not okay back then. And so Shakespeare said, I will make you love men. And that's how we got Taming of the Shrew. Number 8, King Lear. I didn't really enjoy this one that much, but shit got so crazy. It starts with King Lear saying he trusts his 2 evil daughters more than his actual good daughter because she can't possibly put into words how she feels, so she won't say anything. And the other 2 are like flattering him beyond belief, and so he gives them the kingdom, and he becomes like wretched and poor and a beggar, and all this weird stuff happens, and there's a lot of deceit, and there was a lot going on. And at times I was confused and a little lost, and I wasn't super into it. But then a guy got his eyeballs gouged out, so it kind of saved the story for me. Number 7, The Merchant of Venice. This one was interesting to me. I felt really bad for Shylock. And this play has gotten a lot of flack for being super anti-Semitic, but I just really liked Shylock, and I felt bad for him. He was supposed to be this crazy villain, but I don't know, there was something like redeeming about him, and I just felt really bad for him. So that was like an interesting to read it that way. Also, just Portia was like the coolest character. She was a cold stone bitch to all of her suitors. It was awesome. Number 6, Much Ado About Nothing. I really enjoyed this one. From here on out, they're all super enjoyable that I'm gonna list. Much Ado About Nothing was one I didn't know anything about, and I loved the banter in here between Beatrice and Benedict. It was so good. Like the wit and like how Shakespeare made sexual tension in like this beautiful prose. It was amazing. It was one of my favorites for sure. Number 5, The Winter's Tale. This was another one I didn't know anything about, so I was thrilled when the name Hermione popped up, and Perdita from Disney. Oh my gosh. That all just clicks in your childhood. Shakespeare is everywhere. I really liked this one though. King Leonidas was a really interesting character, and he was crazy and once again just doesn't trust his wife. All these men in Shakespeare are just like, my wife's unfaithful because another man told me so. And Leonidas is so insane. Like he gets these oracles and he's like, tell me, oracles, because I can't even just ask my wife who has denied these claims. Has she been unfaithful? And the oracles are like, dude, no, she's perfect. Why are you so crazy? And Leonidas was like, yeah, I don't believe you. I'm going to feed my daughter to the wolves, put her in the forest now. It was just this crazy premise, but I really liked it. And I liked the idea of Perdita like growing up and like coming back, and then Hermione's a statue and then she's alive again, and it was like had this really cute happy ending, and I don't know, it was an enjoyable one. Number 4, A Midsummer Night's Dream. How can anybody not love this one? Fun, it's lighthearted. I feel like any child 5 and up could watch this play being performed and laugh. Like it is a hilarious, super enjoyable play. I really loved reading it. There was all these little things. I mean, just when you're reading Shakespeare, you realize how he is everywhere. Like all these little quotes and names, and he's just so integrated in our society even after this long. It's crazy. So I really liked this one. Number 3, Julius Caesar. Oh, so good. I mean, is there a more well-written Shakespeare play? I mean, besides the one that's my number one. But this was definitely like the second best written Shakespeare play. It's so good. The story is good. It's the lines are classic. The "Beware the Ides of March" and "Et tu, Brute." I mean, it's just he's a master. He's a masterpiece of a person. I love Shakespeare. This is one good thing about doing this, was that I really get why people love him now. And if you think you don't like him, I think it's because you haven't read all of his works or haven't understood them, because wow, that man in prose are like meant to be forever. Number 2, The Twelfth Night. This is kind of a weird one to put it too, and I put it here because I really enjoyed reading it. I don't think it's his best written play or anywhere near as popular as some of his others, but the premise was cool. Everybody was in disguise, and there was so much, like, there was this romance going on, and there was like this tension, and Viola was such a badass, and Sebastian coming to find her. And it was funny, like when they were trying to convince, and I read this one really early on in the year, so I can't remember characters, but they're trying to convince that guy that the girl he likes wants him to do all this crazy stuff, and he thinks it's a note from her telling him to do all this crazy stuff, and then he does it in public, and she's like, "What are you doing? I didn't write that." And it's it's good. It's like it's funny. Trust me, 12th Night. Read it. And my number 1, which I was surprised about, I didn't think I was gonna go cliche, but I just can't help it. It is a masterpiece, Hamlet. What a great fucking play. It's got everything. It is beautifully written. These incredible lines that people still speak today. To be or not to be, that is the question. It just pulls you in. It's so good. I mean, it's just such a great play. Is he mad? Is he faking it? Has his faking mad turned into real madness? Just this, all aspects of humanity are portrayed in this play, and it is so good. So I highly recommend that one. So those are my least favorite, 2 favorite Shakespeare plays that I read this year. I'm so glad I did this. It was pretty difficult at times because Shakespeare is very hard to read. What I would do a lot, and if you're really new to this, I would suggest doing this, is I would read an act or a scene, and then I would go on Spark Notes after I read it, and I would reread the analysis and the summary, and that really helped with some of these. So really great. Recommend all Shakespeare stuff. I had a lot of fun challenging myself to do this. The year before this I read 25 or 50 classics, which was exhausting. I have to think of something new for this year's upcoming challenge. I might do biographies on presidents, because I think that could be kind of fun, but I'm still thinking about it, so I will keep you updated. I'm going to have a review up soonish of Six of Crows. I just finished it. YA book, really good. Can't wait to talk to you guys about that, and that's all I have to say about Shakespeare. Bye!